Tombows was the fact that it was a water-based marker, and so it was tearing up the paper, and I just don't deal with that, right? But with the bullet point and the micron nib, it didn't really do that as much, right? And you could get real details and stuff like that, so it was great, but nothing for bigger surfaces. So I was like, this isn't gonna work. Well, now we have the ABT Pro alcohol-based Tombow markers, right? So I'm really excited to try these out because Tombow had some really nice, quality. It felt good, the colors were great and all that stuff, but it just was a water-based marker. And so it just, like I said, if it tears up the paper, that's a no-go for me. So now we have these alcohol-based ABT Pro markers. So I'm excited to see where it is. It's a brush tip. Not, as you all know, not a really big fan of brush tips, but it was good quality last time, and it still has a chisel, so I still can be able to do stuff. And if this works well, I can still couple it with the micron pen and bullet point marker. It's gonna be great. Also, if we could push for them to make those smaller ones in an alcohol-based, yep, that would be the dream. So let's try these out and see if they're actually going to be worth it. All right, so right off the bat, we get this huge box. And I'm really looking at this going, man, this box is really big and it's only got 12 markers in here. So I'm interested to see just how big they are, if they're bigger than the Tombows or whatnot. But it's a nice little box. They have multiple different colors. I went ahead and picked up 2, all right? But what we're gonna focus on is this one with these interesting colors. And yeah, so let's go ahead and see what's in here. All right, so we open up from the side. All right, go. Oh, will you look at that? It even comes with its own little case. Like standing case, that's cool. All right, so that's real cool. I mean, it's not to be stood up, but I'm pretty sure that they interlock, so you can have 2 or 3 of them together, right? And just have them on your desk. That's pretty cool. I like that. So instantly we see that the Tombow is white. It's not the typical Tombow black. So it instantly puts it apart from being water-based, alcohol-based. It says it on there, of course, but I mean, they're not any bigger than the regular Tombows. They feel nice. It's very sturdy. Those nibs look pretty cool. Brush looks nice, right? As far as, oh, it's nice and hard. I think that's what I really enjoyed about these, was that the brush itself actually was a stiff brush, and so that made that really nice. So I think that that's going to be great. It's kind of interesting how they have the colors separated though, right? Like, why not have yellow, orange, and red put together? I guess because not all the colors are here, right? And you move there. Green's kind of underrepresented. Yeah, but I guess we'll go like this. Right? But anyway, maybe that's just me. All right, so let's go ahead and put those over to the side. Crack open a book. Crazy art marker book. All right, so let's try this purple. All right, first we're gonna try the brush. All right, the brush nib is pretty good. See that? Oops, sorry, that way. All right, it's a pretty strong nib. And then the chisel tip's also pretty cool, right? They look all pretty sturdy, so I'm really excited about trying it out. And of course it's alcohol based, so that's a good thing. Oh, that's not cool. They didn't make it so that the caps stick together. Maybe this way? Nope. So they didn't make it so the caps stick together, so that's kind of a letdown. Right, so now I'm always gonna have a cap somewhere else. Minor thing, but still, it's one of those ones where you're like, oh, you really could have actually just made it so that the cap would stick on. All right, let's try. And those colors, though, that's just beautiful. Look at that. That is a very nice color. I mean, really nice. All right, and the brush itself, right, allows you to get these nice little feathers, right? So you can really get nice thin lines if you want to. That's cool. And if you apply enough pressure, you can actually get the ink all the way down to the bottom, which is really nice. I'm gonna move this out the way so I can bring up the book. So you can really see those nice lines. It does fade out because it's a brush, so you know it's like as you move forward, unless you can keep that pressure, right? I am nowhere near a person who understands how to use a brush really well. So as far as pressure goes, so you can keep the ink all the way through, but you can do it, right? And that's where I falter, right? It's just the practice with the brush. But I mean, going over it, right? So we'll go over it with the brush. Oh, nice alcohol based, right? Blends together really well. Look at that. Doesn't tear up your paper. Okay, all right, Tombow. That's really nice. I mean, if you get really close, you can smell the alcohol content, but generally you can't, right? It's not super strong when you pull the cap off, so that's nice. All right, let's try. Let's see how thick we can get with this. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. All right, and then you can just come in and make a very nice, even coat with that. That's nice. All right, and then you can get your nice thin, you can still get some pretty thin lines with the chisel, right? That's great. And then you can go over it. And if you go over it enough, right, and you put enough saturation down, it will cover other lines. So you could come in and, you know, after the fact and just go over it and be like, all right, so now, right, and then you can blend it out. So that's cool. I mean, these are great so far. I mean, aside from the cap thing, but as far as like the brush goes, you get this nice, you know, tip. You can get some variation. So if you're good with a brush, you can get a lot of stuff out of this, right? And it maintains its color like with the first shot, so that's good. Nice variation in the chisel tip. Let's try a different color. See how this yellow works. All right, so the yellow itself is a bit mustardy, so I guess we'll just wait to see how that dries. We'll go ahead and put, since we only have a few colors, we'll just go ahead and put them all next to each other. I mean, they're all very vibrant colors. Not necessarily, like that yellow is not the yellow I thought that was going to come out of that cap. And so, you know, if you get a color sheet, like, then you'll be able to know. And you can tell some of these, the concoction's a little bit wetter. Like this one didn't come out as juicy as this blue one did. So there are some colors that flow a little bit different than the others. So from what I'm seeing, the colors themselves are actually, if you go over them, right, to make sure that it's not streaky, the color actually is darker than the actual cap would let you believe. So that's something you got to be aware of. Like if you're like me and you go over it to ensure that it has a nice even coat, it's going to be darker than the cap that you're using. That's very, very important thing to know. But I think that if you had like a color sheet, you would be fine. Then let's do black. And black is nice and vibrant, right? So now I want to just go and make some lines, because I know that I made these and they're darker than the cap, right? Except for this pink. Like this pink actually is a lot lighter, right? So if you hold them up to the counterpart color, for the most part, they are darker than the cap, right? Especially this yellow. Like the yellow is definitely like a mustard yellow. Okay, so in general they're all darker, but we're gonna make some chisel tip marks, right? Just gonna one shot, see what the color would be like if the one, you know, if you just went one shot from one side to the other. Just do that. I'm not really putting these in any kind of order, just so you can see the difference, right? Because they are a lot lighter if you do one pass, but I have yet to see anyone really be able to do a one pass marker drawing, right? You have to go over them. So, but this way you can see what the color looks like as soon as it comes out. Right, and I'm having some markers, like, and I just bought these, but I'm having some markers that actually, like this brown and the green, like with one shot, and it's not letting out a lot of ink, right? And so it's actually fading as you move it. And I really wasn't going that fast. The same thing's happening with this green. Like it just didn't let out enough of the consistency of the marker, this blue too, right? So it's letting out different amounts of ink for different markers. So that's something to keep in mind. You know, it's like how that interacts, like knowing the fact that you have color and stuff like that, very important. But all right, let's try. I'm going to try and blend, since we did that. You know, as you can see, one shots are a lot lighter than actually going over everything. So we're gonna try to do this blend real quick. Right, we'll just go from yellow to red, and we're gonna see how that works with the markers that they gave us. Right, so they gave us some variation, and so we're gonna just want to see. So we're gonna go ahead and coat it, right? Because you gotta let that have something down there, and then while it's relatively wet, we'll go to the orange. And then let's move on to the red. So these are not, these are like blending. What do you mean blending? So I'm gonna go back over it with the yellow, because I mean the yellow to orange is like non-existent as far as a blend goes. Yeah, that's not even trying to blend. And then the orange to red, so the red with the orange is interacting. So I don't know if you guys can really see that, but right here where this orange, right, where this orange and red interact, it has gotten lighter. Like the red has gotten lighter, but I think that's pretty much where our transition is. I can see now that I went over the yellow a little bit. It's getting lighter here, but it's not a strong transition, right? So it's not like you can make the yellow darker, but that's not really transitioning. So it seems as though it's really good for more graphic style, right? So if you have a more graphic style and you need colors to be separated, this would really work. These colors are super vibrant, but as far as blending goes, doesn't necessarily look like it's good for blending. So let's go ahead and scribble something out, and then we will do a final image. All right. All right, so we just got done reviewing the ABT Tombow alcohol-based markers. There were some really cool things that went with it. It was very vibrant. The colors were amazingly vibrant. That was really cool. They did come across a little darker than, well, actually a lot darker than the caps would indicate. So that was something that you definitely needed to keep in mind. The brush nib was actually really good. It was stiff, so it wasn't really soft. So you had some resistance to it, which I thought was a good idea, and it allows you to think more that it's like a pencil or that it is a brush pen and not a brush. So the bristles were actually really nice and stiff, so you were able to actually control it a little bit better, especially if you were someone like me who doesn't have a lot of experience with the brush. This actually lets you use it and still feel as though you knew what you were doing. So that was a real plus. There was a lot of versatility in the chisel tip, so you were able to get some thin lines with it, which was really cool. But what I realized when I was doing the drawing was that when I needed to do detail work, I went to the brush because I needed something that could get an even finer tip. And so the brush was there, and that's why I personally like the bullet tips, because you can get some really nice detail work in there. But the brush really was able to do its thing. One thing that I didn't necessarily like was because it seemed as though it's smaller, right? So it's thinner, and the amount of ink flow that comes out of it isn't a lot. It doesn't come out as, say, a Prismacolor or a Shinhan Art touch marker or a Copic marker. The ink just does not flow as fast and as much as it would with one of those. So that was kind of jarring for me. You know, doing just this profile head, I felt like I was going to run out of ink. And it's a brand new marker, which is just weird. And while it did cover everything up, it felt as though that wasn't what was going to happen. And so that was a bit odd to me. And I don't know if it was something that I would actually want to do like a full-on illustrative page with. I think that would actually cause a lot of problems, but it did work, right? Like, so I think that for sketching it's going to be fantastic. It's a small brush. It's great for sketching. The colors stay on top of each other. The reason why I think it'll be great for sketching is because you can actually just go over it and the color will lay on top. Blending's not a thing. Like I looked at it again, it doesn't really seem as though blending is something that was intended for this. I could be wrong, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but as far as I could tell, like the colors just kind of lay on top of each other, which for someone who does a lot more graphic style work, it works just great. It's absolutely fantastic. One thing that I did notice is that I inked it with the marker and it didn't like that very much. Now that's not a problem with the marker itself. It's like you just need to do some ink to let it have a nice tight line. So if you plan on like inking your work with that, just know that it does bleed out because it's a marker, right? And it needs a barrier to actually stay in one space. Something else that I noticed was that I put down that black and then I erased all the pencil lines, but then going over some of the blacks, it still pulled the ink. So it still was able to pull some of the ink. And that's something that I don't like, is that it gives that smudged look because you pulled some of the black or something like that. Generally it happens with a different ink. So if you were like using a micron pen and then these Tombows and it pulled the ink, that's understandable because it's a different brand, they have different mixtures, so they don't necessarily work well together. But because it was its own brand, like I used a black Tombow marker, this marker with a orange Tombow marker, and it still pulled up the ink, that's kind of a problem. That coupled with the fact that I can't put my cap on the back of my marker. Still, that's a little thing that's not necessarily a problem. But it came with its own case, right? It was a little stacking case, which was cool. So all in all, I mean, the marker, it was great having an alcohol-based Tombow marker. It does not streak. If you go over it, it doesn't streak, so that's really nice. All in all, I think the marker is going to be great for someone who's looking for a high-end sketch marker, you know, to really get some nice colors, some nice, you know, lines and stuff like that. Versatility with the brush and the chisel. It's going to be a real nice marker for sketching and smaller detail work. But if you're trying to do like full-on figures and stuff like that, especially with big spaces, I don't know if this is necessarily one. While it works, it does work. Like I said, I had a feeling as though my marker was going to bleed out or dry out, and that shouldn't happen. I shouldn't feel that way, but it's just the way that the ink flows and how much I can get on a piece of paper. It didn't seem as though it was going to flow as much as a bigger marker, which makes sense. So if you're okay with that, then these are perfect for you. But I would recommend these for people who are looking for a higher end sketch marker. They're absolutely fantastic for that. Colors are vibrant, the nibs are perfect, the brush is great. It's good for that. But like I said, if you're trying to do bigger spaces, you need a bigger brush, you need a bigger marker. And so that's just something to keep in mind. But these were really good. I do enjoy them. But it's definitely for sketching. Like this is something I would use on the go if I was going out and I wanted to do some life drawing or something like that. These are fantastic for that. But when it would come to my commission work, I'd have to go to a bigger marker because I want to be able to fill more space in less time. Well, that concludes today's episode of Is It Worth It? I hope you learned something or got something out of this review. If you did, please give it a like, share it with someone who you think might benefit from it. And if you are new to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the bell so you get notified when I release new product. Every week I have more product coming out. And if there is something that you would like to see me review, please drop me a comment and I will put it on the list and we will get to reviewing the stuff that you actually want to see. Thank you guys so very much, and I will see you at the next video. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to check out some of my other videos, click on the link on your right. Or, if you're interested in a more behind the scenes and personal look at what I do on a day-to-day basis, please click on the link that leads you to the vlog. Thank you very much, and we'll see you at the next video.